Hi, everybody. I am here with Abdul Bashir, and he is in Panama right now, but originally born in good old New York. And he has a fabulous story about transformation. And really, what did we want to call this topic again, Bashir? Abdul?
Well, living with a purpose, basically, because that's really what we want everyone to see, that they are, if they're living, there's a purpose.
Absolutely. So he has an incredible journey that I am going to turn it over to and share how he was living the American dream in New York. New York, the apple, the big city where everything happens, and how life has shifted dramatically for him now and opened up. So where did it all really come to be, your aha moment?
Well, my aha moment was actually in the hospital. I would end up leaving the bowling alley after bowling 3 games and feeling worse as a result, and driving myself to the hospital, sitting in the emergency room, allowing them to take CAT scans and things. And the doctor came back after doing that with a negative result. And he had a great concern because of the symptoms that I had.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me to stay and have a neurologist look me over. When the neurologist came, what was happening was my body was getting number and number. And so the neurologist had put hot tests on me and cold tests and started sticking me with needles and all these things I could not feel. I could not respond to them. So this, raised a greater concern for him. And he asked me to stay over so he can do MRI. This is May 1st. May 2nd, we're in the hospital, and I'm leaving the world more and more. Now I can't even taste the food. I'm in the bed, and my body's becoming more and more numb. By day 3, May 3rd, the surgeon comes in with the MRI result. And he says, oh, okay, you have a tumor. It's on your cervical spine.
Wow.
You ruptured it. You're bleeding internally. Actually, you're dying. And this is why you have the symptoms that you have.
Wow.
We have to go in and cut the tumor and stop the bleeding in order to save your life. Now, I had really had a reputation of telling people, don't let them cut you. Your body heals itself. And so I was pretty strong in this idea because I knew it was true.
Mm-hmm.
So when he tells me this, and I had just spent the last couple of years really interviewing professionals and, going on their words and helping them to fulfill their dreams and be in their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I asked him that, and he gave me his sincere reply that he could help me and he could successfully do the job, I still, said, well, okay, well, someone else would have to make the decision. Because I had spent the last couple of days surrendering and talking to God or Spirit and telling them that I was tired. That was like the first time in my life I'd been in a hospital. And everything, pressuring or doing everything for everybody, it kind of came to a standstill. And I had agreed that if I couldn't do it, someone else would do it. So I had told myself and God that I was ready to go, so I had surrendered. And so when he tells me that he can fix it, I said, well, someone else will have to make the decision because, I'm good to go. Mm-hmm. So at that point, he left, and then I went into a coma actually for 48 hours.
Okay.
And woke up with my wife on the side of the stretcher and the nurses and everybody racing me down the hall to the OR. My wife was praying, and the doctor asked me when I got to the door to count down from 100, 99, 98, 97, lights out.
Right.
I wake up on the other side, feeling like I got hit by a truck. One, it was like I never felt that bad in my life. The first thought that came to my mind was that maybe I was being given a second chance. Maybe this was I'd done some things wrong, done some things right, and maybe this is my second go at it. And this thought was intercepted by a voice that said, this is not about you. You're here to be an inspirer of men and women. Mm-hmm. Family and friends are coming to pity you, and you will have to inspire them. Mm-hmm. And in the same instant, I was blessed with the greatest love I ever felt. Oh. And I bathed in this love and feeling like I had a sense of purpose like never before in my life, a reason for being. And as I enjoyed that, I was interrupted by a nurse who came because I was sitting in a hallway by myself
Mhm.
as they were preparing a room for me, which I didn't know. And she says, "Oh, you're awake. We're preparing a room for you. I'll be right back." And so she, left me there. And so I continued to feel this and feeling like I was special. And then when they came back and they take me up to this room, they start transferring me from the stretcher to the bed.
Mhm.
And I realized that I can't help them. I can't move my legs. I can't do anything. And in that moment, I realized I'm paralyzed from the neck down. All I can move is my eyes, and I'm watching them tie my hands to the rails and everything. And it seemed like, why are you even tying my hands? Because I can't even feel my body. And so at that moment, the voice continues to speak to me again. It said, just be as I created you. And so as I laid there and the staff walked out the room, the first visitor they let in was my daughter, who was 11 years old. Interestingly enough, because I didn't know that she was there. I didn't know who was waiting in the hospital at that point.
Right.
And this was the love child, the one that I had spent a lot of time with and always, um, just
Boring.
giving and receiving a lot of love from her. And so it was interesting that she was the first one that came in, and she's the one that actually inspired me to life, because I had realized I couldn't move. And when I saw her there, she stood at the end of the bed and she started to tear up and tears started falling. And so I needed to get on my job and inspire her and let her know that I was okay. And in that instant, I had a thought that I can let her know, but the question was how. And I felt this energy in my left shoulder, and it quickly moved to my right and then down to my hand. And my index finger on my right hand was able to move. And the idea was to start to write I-O-K. So I rolled my eyes to her so she could come to my hand.
Mhm.
And I started to just write this into the sheet until she mouthed this out loud. And so this gave me a sense of relief. But in the days that followed, it was like the hardest time of my life, because now I was being, um, I guess, dictated to by these doctors and their reports, saying that I had to stay on these machines and these machines had to maintain me. And, never before in my life did I need anything to breathe.
Right.
But this was the beginning of um, of of what the road that got me to where I am today, because it was like being in the body for the first time. And I have received this great message that, um, I had a purpose in living. So imagine if when we were first born, someone told us why we're here. It's like this how it was for me. I had a reason for being here and a reason to endure the things that lay ahead.
I honestly
The
believe everybody's born with that. They just forget it. Like that knowing when you come, and then it's just they let go of it. I think the younger generation now is staying more in tune to it, and that's what's going on with the shift in the world. But I love that this is so powerful what you're sharing, because so many people could not even imagine being in your situation.
Yeah, it's interesting because what it showed me, for one, because I didn't have an attachment, because I surrendered
Hmm.
prior to this thing happening. So the surrender sent me into the thing without having expectations. I came out on the other side surprised to still have an existence. With that surprise, I was given a reason for being here. And so when the first thing, and that's why it's important that the first thing that we take in our minds when we wake up is, it's very crucial, so we should always have something there that empowers us, because that's the thing that will take us through the rest of our day, the rest of our days, the rest of our life. And so, for me, when that voice came, it was myself, my higher self, you know, being there for us, you know, because it's always there for us.
Yeah.
Because I've come to a point after being on this road, and it's been 23 years now since this happened.
The 23
And
since you were in the hospital. Wow.
yeah,
That's awesome.
May 5th, 1994 is the day I was reborn. And so this at this point, I come to realize that who we are is not even, you know, we look at this body all the time and we have this disillusionment that this is our reality. But the reality is, it's always being shown to us in different ways. Even the fact that when we got here, we had to be inside something. We were inside the womb.
Mm-hmm.
We were inside liquids, and we were surrounded by things. And so, environment. The human being has to be able to see himself as something that is a seed sitting inside of his reality. So, you know, it's like 99% of who we are is invisible. To get to a point when we can recognize that is the power, because the very same thing that I had to realize upon my recovery, and strangers would come and say, just breathe, breathe. It was always about the breath.
Right.
And so when you focus on the breath, the invisible aspect of who you are, you can come to realize who you truly are. And so 99% of who you are is invisible, because you know, you can't even see yourself really in order to be yourself. You know what I'm saying? So um,
Well, I might even
this,
say it. I just want to. What comes to my mind, man, is when I was in Africa, the children there had never seen themselves because they didn't have mirrors. So until like digital photography came and somebody came along and showed them, this is you, and their friends would say, yes, that's what you look like. They had zero identification with their body in that sense. So they were full of love and life because they just identified with everything else around them.
exactly. So the environment is so important, but we focus a lot on the physical environment.
Yes.
Instead of realizing the environment that we don't see is that which nurtures us, really. When you fast, when you don't take in physical things, you realize that you continue to be sustained, because the thing that is your reality is not the physical thing. And so for me, the journey allowed me to waken up to this more and more,
So
and allow me
from the
to be able to.
hospital, sorry to interrupt, how'd you get from the hospital to where you are now? Because I see zero machines around you.
What happened was, it was about obedience. And again, I was in this place where, because of my surgery, I could not even speak for a while. So I had to observe life, listen. People were coming and talking to me. And of course, every day the doctors and the nurses giving me their opinion about who I was and what my state was. And even a lot of times complaining about their own lives, you know, and the thing, all that they had. And here I was, basically laying there, could not move the parts of my body that I could see.
Right.
Every time I closed my eyes, I would disappear into everything and nothing at all. And so that was really a blessing for me. So it allowed me to experience myself in a different light. And so I had to go through the progression of course, rehabbing myself, or allow myself to be rehabbed by those that were of that authority, going along with that. And at the same time, I have this voice telling me, guiding me, and telling me there's a lot of work to do, and guiding me through the steps that was more powerful than what the doctors and the therapists were saying, because they gave me no hope of walking. They tell me forget about my life the way it was, and you know, I understood it as time went on, because basically everything that was functioning before the surgery was not functioning after the surgery. I could not feel my internal organs. All my muscle mass after a while was gone. I was just skin and bones. And so the lack of physicality lent to a whole different type of understanding and a stronger desire to have this relationship with the source.
Right.
And so, as I went through the hospital, and of course, the voice would one day tell me before I left to let everything go for it, and it would replace it with something better. And so I decided to be completely obedient in this process. I went home and actually got divorced, went to a lawyer and got divorced and gave everything to my spouse, rolled away in my wheelchair with nothing, and actually started from nothing and went on welfare, received a couple of food stamps to live, and was living in a room and just focusing on creator and reading things about universal laws, et cetera, and allowing this to nurture me. And I reached a point one day where I just wanted to experience God in every cell of my body.
Yes.
And this thought would guide me to my yoga teacher, who would, Paramahansa, it drove me to Paramahansa Yogananda, who would subsequently guide me to one of his students, actually the last living disciple that he has right now on the earlier, Roy Eugene Davis, who initiated me into Kriya Yoga. And Kriya Yoga is meditative yoga, although it includes 5 other yogas, which includes a form of hatha, physicality. The main posture is sitting. So when you're in that asana, to be able to transform the physical and go into the spirit is what the objective of the practice is, to go through the steps that allow you to climb the ladder to self-realization. So I practiced that for a few years, and while I was doing that, I was invited to give talks about life purpose around the country, around the United States. And I eventually would meet this guy because actually I was invited to the mountains one time, and this Native American said he had a message for me from Spirit, and he told me before I realized my true purpose, I need to go to 3 other places other than meeting with him that day. So he sent me to Asheville, North Carolina, sent me to Montana, and to New Mexico. And it was in New Mexico where I would meet this guy that had this healing center in Costa Rica. And we became friends. He really appreciated our friendship and our meeting. And so we spent a couple of years of being friends until he would invite me to be the spiritual director of his yoga retreat center in Costa Rica. And that's how I really got out of the United States. But I had received a lot of initiations and a lot of other teachings along the way that, in my kind of sense of ignorance, because they were just coming to me, I wasn't searching for these different things to happen to me, but different people would come, and be it a shaman or someone with a healing gift, come and say, Abdul, I got to give this to you. I got to do this for you. And so these are the different things that activated me and put me in a position to help others in the future in this way. And so now I've been for the last 16 years spiritual director of my own healing center in Costa Rica. Also came to know Genesis 2 Church, which 4 or 5 years ago gave me the position of bishop of Genesis 2 Church of Health and Healing. I'm the bishop of Costa Rica. And so our message is to heal the world and to show the world how healing is possible. Sickness is not necessary.
Nope.
However, for me, the first thing is really the mind. So we have to really prepare the mind to be open to see the possibilities, that which has always been there. Be still and know that I am God is probably one of the greatest fiats you can take into your mind, because we get caught up in a lot of activity. And for me, the universe, or I guess my own planning at some point, brought me to a standstill where I couldn't move anything. where literally became like a head.
Hmm.
But what else did I need but my head, so I can think things through? Because the human beings been given a gift different than all other beings on the planet. We have the ability to think. So if you put us in an environment, we will see opportunity, how to survive, what's the next thing to do. But we have to be still at times.
And in that stillness, right, I personally feel in that stillness, you're in between thoughts, right? So it's the thought that leads you to, that follows, that calls you from your inner guidance, that's your path, that whatever you want to call it, the truth. And then there's the habitual thought and frequency that you've been tapped into previously, that unless you allow yourself to surrender, which you did back in the hospital, like to surrender and start that open process to say, I'm open, I'm ready to receive a gift of something new. And then the next kicker is to act on it, right? Because you can receive the thought, but if you don't do anything with it.
Exactly. Exactly. Because we don't even realize that we're being conditioned from the first 7 years of our life. We're filling up the subconscious mind with the things that we're going to carry out the rest of our life. And so we spend our lives reacting to these things that are in the subconscious. And so until we can take control of what we do on a conscious level, change doesn't happen. We keep repeating things. We keep wondering why we're having the same relationship with a different guy or a different girl. Because the subconscious, the programming that we have instilled. So when we become still and we allow ourselves to become empty, so we look at all these things. And this doesn't serve me. That doesn't serve me. Throw it out. Throw it out. Throw it out. And stop seeing ourselves as a victim.
Yes.
Because we have to see ourselves as the creator. So once you accept responsibility for everything that you created, and that's really what I was able to do, because in my stillness, the voice starts showing me how I created the tumor. You say, yeah, all that unhappiness, every time you start thinking about how unhappy you actually crystallized the thought. It went into your blood system, and it kept dropping this thing off, this mass that creates this tumor. And so I was able to see how I created and accept the responsibility for its creation,
Yeah.
which lent to my ability to transform myself physically.
Yeah, and I can hear some viewers right now going, whoa, I don't know if I believe that I created my situation, right? And I can relate because I had that moment too where, someone gave me that idea that I was responsible, that thoughts that I was thinking were part of my dis-ease. So we're just planting a seed. You don't have to take it in, but if you allow yourself to recognize that thoughts and energies around you are impacting you and you're taking this into your body, you can feel it. Just like if we think of something happy right now, you are happy and you feel freedom in your body. But if we start to feel stress, you can feel your body starts to contract, right? And anger. So when you keep putting these things on yourself and allowing you to live a life when you're doing things, just doing them in the treadmill, you're stressing your body out and it's creating reactions. You can look at things like Dr. Emoto and water crystals. You can look up biology of belief, but there's lots of science that's proving exactly what Abdul's saying, that the manifestation of what happened in his body started with how he was living his life, right?
Right. What I was thinking, exactly. And so the things that are invisible impact our physical reality. So those are the things that are most powerful. And this is why I'm saying our environment. So if we realize the thing that we don't even see, the thing that blesses us every day to have a life, because it goes through your nose, in and out, in and out. It doesn't ask anything of you. This is the love, absolutely. The unconditional love that says, okay, I'm with you, whatever you want to do. You want to be a good guy? Good. You want to be a bad guy? Great. I'm with you in whatever you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
But this thing is the thing that you cannot see that affects your reality the most.
Mm-hmm.
So be it your thoughts.
Yeah.
Change venues. As you travel around, you can feel how, different places make you feel. Or a lot of times we cancel ourselves out because it's always us and the thing. And so when we realize how powerful we are, we can change the experience that people have from us, because each and every one of us is an experience unto each other. So if we choose to be the love, we have friends that, hey, every time she comes, you're always happy, blah, blah, blah. We can be that person,
Mm-hmm.
because it always comes with a choice, choosing to be happy, choosing to be sad, choosing to be frustrated. It's a choice. But if we practice doing the other things, so we just raise the vibration of love within us,
Yes.
then our purpose in being is always going to be about love. Why am I here? To love someone. Why am I here? To give. Because the beginning and the end of the story is always going to be about giving. Life is for giving. You're always going to be giving something, even if it's something to nature. When you show up in an environment, like I'm in Panama, and the mosquitoes think I came to give it some blood, because every time I hear they're trying to suck some blood out of me, And I look at them, I say, okay, So you have to look at it on all levels.
Well, it's funny you mention mosquitoes, because just yesterday I was out walking and I was covered in them, and I just said, you can have whatever it is you need, but I am going to be staying whole and complete. And when my back had blood all over it, right? And but looking at my arms and my back, there are zero signs of any bites. So it was one of those, they got what they needed, but it left me intact.
Right. So we can choose how we have allow things to affect us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, again, the invisible thing, that thought, the power of thought. And so if I didn't decide to choose to not be a victim of my circumstance, I would not even be having this conversation right now. I'd probably be 40, 50 pounds heavier, sitting in some corner in a wheelchair.
Right.
And so, my decision to, for one, stop, look, and be willing to take one step at a time, instead of taking the many that we that have our great physical ability, we take so many steps and we end up, going nowhere.
Yes.
But if you learn to take one step at a time and appreciate each step, recognize each step for what it's given you and what you're able to do, you can do so much more, not only for yourself, but for everyone.
Yeah. And see, this is like, 101, of the for those that are asking, like, this is a journey. And as for those of you that maybe this is the first time you've heard it, or you're partway along, it's consistency in continuing to surrender and allow yourself to expand that creates this great transformation of service. And when each of us realizes that that's what we're here to do, is to serve and to give, it's a consistent flow. You're receiving and you're giving, and you're receiving and you're giving, and the rules of the so-called world that you've been taught are irrelevant.
Exactly. So we get to understand the true meaning of creation.
Yes.
Because creation is on automatic.
Yes.
And so as we allow ourselves, because we end up joining with, or molding with, or healing into the energy that we align our consciousness with. And so those of us that are in love, we recognize the other lovers, and we can be in love. Those of us that are in sick, we end up creating more sickness and illness. And so it's just about making a decision to be, and it's a practice. Ideal, you practice it, practice, because wherever you are right now, you practice a state of consciousness that got you there, that allows you to be there. And so on an unconscious level, we can look to our parents and accept, or our teachers, or, our schooling, our previous life, that gave us a conditioning as to what we should be and how we should be, what we should do.
Mm-hmm.
However, we can stop it in the line. We can stop even illness in our family, because every cell is unique unto itself.
Absolutely.
You don't have to have cancer because your mother had it.
No.
No, you don't have to buy into that. But again, we have to decide what we want to believe.
Yeah.
Right? Who do we want to be? The key is really be.
Yeah. And
because the word believe
is leave, right?
Right. So you can't really be and leave at the same time. So that is always going to create some doubt about what you want to do.
except when you're totally in tune, that spirit of doubt, the guy that I say is named Doubt, that's sitting over there,
Mhm.
able to easily say, yeah, I used to hang out with you, but no more.
Right, and we can do it from a point of appreciation.
Yes, we say, I love and accept you for who you are. Yes, I know it is so important for the parents to recognize that you're doing the best you can with what you know at that time. I mean, I have a 22 and a 17-and-a-half-year-old that they were raised completely out of the box. So all these, they were raised as spiritual beings having a earthly experience. So they are entirely different species related to when they're with their peers, because they
Mm.
don't even get why the world sees things the way they see it, because they are in a different paradigm. And the way I would share it with them when they were growing up as multiples, but was like turning on the TV. And I would say, a lot of people are on channel 2, and you might be in channel 2 playing this victim role if you want, or you can be in channel 3 playing the superhero role, or channel 4 on this one. You decide. And once you decide where you want to see, then you open up to the possibilities that are the truth for each of us, because we're all different, we're all unique. I am only meeting Abdul now. We have the pleasure of connecting because I followed this thought that I had about having this 30-hour marathon on healing from the inside out, and the universe connected us. So then you all get to hear his fabulous story. So we're all the little notes in the universe, and when each of us plays our note, we create a symphony of beautiful music and song, of transformation, of healing from the inside out.
Absolutely. And I really am thankful to you, Jacqueline, for doing this for us, because we have to, step up into our space, be obedient to the moment, because we can't see everything that's out there in the process. But it's out there because, again, creation is on automatic and we are part of it. So, I invite, us all to take a moment, take a deep breath, appreciate the breath, feel it. Feel that love that is absolutely loving us all day long, without question, without asking, and decide to be the same way.
That's beautiful. I thank you so much for being here. I love you, and I'm glad we're on this journey together.
I thank you too. I love you too. Peace, everybody.